What is up, y'all? My name is Frosty Osty, and today we are doing another Frosty Features. We've had a lot of characters hitting the blog post recently. So, last week, it was announced that Nico Minoru is coming to Marvel Strike Force. So, we're going to talk about a little bit of background into who Nico is, where they come from. They are going to be in Marvel Strike Force's new upcoming team, the A-Force. So, yeah, I as the Frostiest of Osties, heavily enjoy reading comic books. So I have a bit of a knowledge base of random characters. In this situation, I will say I've read very little pertaining to the Runaways and Nico, so I did a lot of background research. So if I miss anything super important that you feel like needs to be done, let me know in the comments below. Yeah, so here we go. Frosty Features, Nico Minoru. That's Nico, Goth Queen. Hell yeah. Nico Minoru, she goes by her own name. First appearance is Runaways #1 in 2003. We're going to talk about the Runaways a lot because Nico is really only in some A-Force, a small A-Force run, and the Runaways. She's not in much. So since 2003, she actually does not have... If you actually sat down and read everything with Nico in it, you probably could actually get through all of the things she has in a day. As far as I can tell, it seems like at max it's probably 30 or 40 comics. So even though it's from 2003, she's only been kind of here and there a little bit. She is in the Runaways show. So there's a Runaways show that appeared on FX. Morgan Le Fay actually pops up in there, I believe. I believe it could be the Runaways or it could be New Mutants. I could be wrong on Morgan Le Fay, but she is in the Runaways show that came out recently. I've heard mixed reviews about it, but she is one of the main characters. She is kind of renowned on and off as the leader of the Runaways. Powers and abilities. So Nico's a really interesting character. She doesn't have a lot on her, but she's really cool, right? So lately we've been getting a lot of Mystic characters coming to Marvel Strike Force, a crap ton, right? Team after team after team. Nico is another Mystic character, but typically what we see is we see people that are spellcasters, we see people that are chaos magic, we see people that pull magic from like the dark dimensions to dark magic. Nico has blood magic. So Nico, think about Carnage. Carnage, he cuts himself or whatever, and then his symbiote kind of activates. Think about that, but her blood makes her magic work, right? So the more blood that she sacrifices for her magic, the stronger she is, right? And that plays into a big thing into her. Aliases, Sister Grimm. So the Runaways for a while. She also had another alias during the... she was working with a kind of like a high-profile superhero some of the Runaways were, and they came up with their own thing. So her other alias was the Gloom. But Sister Grimm's kind of the main one. In the Runaways, to try to hide their identities from their parents. So the Runaways are all Runaways. So to hide their identities from their parents, they came up with code names. They were short-lived. They only used them for a short period of time. But her code name was Sister Grimm, which is a kind of a badass code name. It kind of sucks it didn't stick around. But anyway, Sister Grimm's the main one. Affiliations, the Runaways, the A-Force, Marvel Strike Force got one right. Woo! Yes, so Nico Minoru is actually a part of the A-Force in the comics. She also has a run-in with the Masters of Evil and works with the Masters of Evil for a short period of time. A lot of heroes, and for those of you who don't know who the Masters of Evil are, they are sort of a counter to the Avengers. A lot of heroes find themselves in situations where they accidentally work with the Masters of Evil, or they knowingly work with the Masters of Evil thinking they have good intentions. The fact that they're called Masters of Evil didn't provide enough of a hint. Anyway, so she is heavily into the Runaways. All that to say, she is from California, Los Angeles specifically, and she is of Japanese descent. A lot of her stories revolve around her ancestors and her family, so that's very important to know. Who died? Destiny Gonzalez. We're going to talk about that in a second. But the entire premise of the Runaways as a team is based around Destiny Gonzalez. So, the Runaways, why they ran away. Let's talk about it now. So, the Runaways, their parents would get together. They're part of a group called the Pride. And their parents would get together for these charity events. So the people of the Runaways, these kids, and a lot of the Runaways are their descendants. They're like legacy heroes. Pretty much all of our legacy heroes / villains. But all of them have some sort of tie to another superhero, supervillain type situation. So they all have powers. Excuse me, talking really fast. They all have powers, right? But they may not have figured out how to control them, whatever. Think about your mutants. Think about your Young Avengers. Similar to the Runaways. So they all go to this charity event to see what their parents are doing, and they see their parents all dressed up and chanting things in a different language, and then they literally watch their parents kill Destiny Gonzalez. So they sacrifice Destiny Gonzalez in a ritual, and then they're like, y'all, we got to get out of here. So they ran away, right? So that's why the Runaways are Runaways, is because they're pretty much just, their parents saw them, and their parents tried to kill them, so they ran away to try to kind of get away, regroup, and take out the Pride, right? So that's sort of the base. It's like very bold strokes. It's the base of what the Runaways are about. The Staff of One. It is a bested magician turned sword. So in the Pride's attempt to get the Runaways, Nico's mother, who also... Nico's family is sort of legacy, like it's a legacy name, it's a legacy hero villain situation. So like Black Knight. In Black Knight, they pass the sword down to whoever like the next of kin is, and they get those powers, right? So that's similar in Nico's family, but it kind of moves on to her by accident. So not accident, because mom was trying to kill daughter. So she tried to kill Nico, and when in stabbing her with the Staff of One, which is the staff you see pictured here, Nico absorbs it into her body, and when she gets cut or she cuts herself, the staff appears and she can use it. Which is part of the blood magic thing. So the Staff of One is actually an ancestor of hers fought another very powerful magician, and in beating the sorcerer that she fights, she gives the sorcerer two options. He says, you can either die or you could become a weapon for me. You can be my sword. And so the magician opted for the sword, and the magician's name was literally One. He was One, and he's very strong. Think about this in the terms of Doctor Strange. There's a lot of magical artifacts. The Staff of One is an extremely powerful artifact, right? And the Staff of One sort of chooses its bearer, similar to Thor's hammer, except if you're not chosen, you die. It will kill you, and it has killed people in canon in the comics. So the Staff of One. It's One because that is the magician's name, and is once again extremely powerful magical artifact that Nico can control and her family controls. So, relationships. Tokiko Minoru, that's her ancestor that fought One and turned One into the Staff of One. Also, so another little quote, a little thing on the staff. The staff can defend itself. It can turn back into the magician who kind of arrives. So in the event that the staff itself gets threatened, it literally can reanimate into a person, into a very strong magician, fight for itself, and then turn back into that staff just due to the essentially contract, the agreement that One had with Tokiko. Robert and Tina Minoru, that is her parents, so they are part of the Pride. They are evil. They are the Pride. The Pride is evil. They are evil. They're the ones sacrificing people. Victor Mancha and Carolina Dean are other people from the Runaways. Victor Mancha is actually a android son of Ultron. That's an ex-boyfriend. And Carolina Dean is an alien who is a part of the Runaways as well, and that's Nico's ex-girlfriend. Nico is famously bi. She was part of Marvel's Pride series last year in 2021. They did a Pride series where they released issues of comics that circled around these different people. It was centered around people who are a part of the LGBTQIA community. I apologize for that mistake. But yeah, so Nico is within that grouping. Notable events. Avengers Arena. Okay, so, and the Witchbreaker. So, Avengers Arena is pretty... I want to say it doesn't make a whole bunch of sense, but it's really cool. So, Avengers Arena is... Marvel was like, hey, let's have the Hunger Games, but with a bunch of young superheroes. So, they take the Runaways, they take Young Avengers, they take the Young Masters of Evil. There's just a bunch of super-powered groups, it's arcade, and he makes essentially a pocket dimension, and he has them in there, and he has them fight to the death to see who kind of comes out the other side. So the Runaways try to team up with the Young Avengers, and things go awry. And people kind of go back and forth. It's the Hunger Games, so people betray each other. So in this situation, the most notable thing that happened to Nico in the Avengers Arena is that Chase, another one of the Runaways, betrays her, or not, doesn't, he gets put under mind control. I said betrays. He gets put under mind control. She doesn't expect it, and he knocks her off a cliff, and she loses her arm, she loses her legs, she kicks a shit out of him, and then she dies, but she bleeds to death. So right before she dies, he sacrifices all of her blood to cast a spell that brings her back, and it brings her back twice as strong. She becomes super powerful. The Staff of One, however, loses half of its size. So Nico dies, and because she dies with all the blood, she becomes mega super Nico, and she gets a big power boost. And also, when you see pictures of her, you can see it here on her left arm. She has it almost, the part of the arm that was lost that made it half as long became her arm. So she has a badass sort of magic android arm that she now, like a gauntlet essentially, that is now her arm. And so she became a lot more powerful and learned to, automatically learned to control her powers better. So she could fly and cast some spells without having to bleed after that, which was a really big thing. And then there was the Witchbreaker. So Nico and the Runaways went back in time to 1907 to do a mission, and she ran into the Witchbreaker, which is Nico's great-grandmother. And through torture, Nico's great-grandmother, and she tortured Nico to make Nico stronger, to be able to access that pain so that she wouldn't have to bleed necessarily, so that she can use her powers. And also, her great-grandmother had this staff. So Nico has a Staff of One. The great-grandmother, her staff was the Witchbreaker. And so later you actually see Nico using the Witchbreaker. So the Witchbreaker is a staff comparable to that of the power of the Staff of One, but being much more experienced and stuff. Her great-grandmother owned the living hell out of her, but tortured her and also moved to power her up even more. So all that being said, historically wise, that's not a whole bunch, but that's a big majority of what we have on Nico. She's still a fairly new character in the scope of the timeline of comics. So there are some things that I left out, but for the most part, that's a pretty wide range of what she's done. She's a really cool character. I would love to see more of her coming up. So let's talk about power level. So the way the power level works for me, we're going to start from the top, head to the bottom. Multiversal, that means you can end reality as we know it and as everybody else knows it, right? So you, in the Marvel Universe, you have a dimension, and then there's other dimensions, right? So if you are a multiversal threat, you can end all of those dimensions, right? Or you could end existence for anyone in your universe and other universes, right? Extremely powerful. There are people at this power level, but they're rare. Marvel Strike Force very often will, not very often, always ignores power levels. So this is just for your own little, it's a little candy nougat for your brain. Universal, you can end maybe just your universe, move over to another one, and another one, right? So there's a few people probably off the top of your head you could think of that could be that threat level. A good example there is Thanos. Cosmic, this is planetary devastation. You can do planets at a time, very easily destroying large groups, maybe large land masses. Maybe you could take out a galaxy with some time. Nuclear, taking out large cities or various populations, maybe a country. You could probably take out a planet if you took the time to do it. City, this is somebody with the strength, at least the strength to take out a brick wall. Maybe you can take out a building with a little bit of work. So notable city, a lot of the Spider-Verse characters kind of live here. And then there's Greg. Greg is Hela's undead Asgardian summon in Marvel Strike Force. Greg, for the sake of argument, I'm saying is the power level of a regular person. If I had a Red Bull and a large hammer with wings on it, I could probably kill Greg, theoretically. All right, so in Nico's case, we see her very often still having to work on her powers, and obviously a lot of her arcs involve her getting more powered up, but we don't see the full scale of her powers necessarily. So due to some of her events, some of the things that she's fought some pretty strong people, but she hasn't actually shown anything super mega impressive. But due to the fact that she has access to magic, her improving control over magic, and just kind of a lot of your magic people typically go up to universal threats, I'm saying she has a lot of potential, but right now all we can see is something at a nuclear level. If she essentially once again lost all her blood and focused that on some sort of large blast, she probably could take out a large city with her power, if not more. It is yet to be seen in the comics. So yeah, that's Nico Minoru. Let me know in the comments what I missed. Let me know if I got some stuff wrong. That's totally fine. But give your boy a like if you found this even remotely entertaining. I would appreciate it. Also, as a reminder, I stream on Twitch at 8 a.m. on Sundays, Central Standard Time, so you come hang out with us there. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Plug all the stuff. Love you all. Thank you all for being around. Stay cool.